Dinosaurs on a spaceship.
A geek on the internet. Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name's Kevin, I'm a geek. You're watching Kevin the Geek. Welcome back to a Doctor Who review. And yeah, a geek on the internet doesn't have the same ring as dinosaurs on a spaceship. Wow, what a title for an episode. This was probably the episode that I was most looking forward to watching when the titles were revealed prior to this half of Series 7 getting released when they first came out back in 2012. It was like, that just sounds so cool. And as an episode, it was okay. It's going to be hard for me when I come to scoring this episode. Now, of course, if you're not aware, all of my Doctor Who episodes and my reviews of them get a scoring which is based on 10 different categories, getting a score out of 10, which gives an overall score out of 100, and that gives an overall grade. And one of those categories is companions, and another one is supporting characters. And we end up in a bit of a problem for this episode, because of course we have the Doctor, we have our regular companions in Amy and Rory, but then we sort of get 3 new companions as well.
Welcome. This is the gang. I've got a gang. Yes. Come on then, everyone.
We bring in Queen Nefertiti of Egypt. We bring in John Riddell, who is a fictional games hunter. It just took me a long time to work out whether was he a real person, was he not. It turns out he is a fictional person. Originally, they were apparently going to do the character based on this guy, Charles Buffalo Jones. It was an American, bit more kind of Western kind of era, so the 1800s. The problem with that is I think they realised, oh, actually, next episode is going to be an actual Western. So is it going to be a bit too similar? Yeah, let's maybe not. Although, it would have been interesting had they managed to make him link in both of the episodes. That could have been a way to incorporate it. Of course, I'm not going to talk about that one. I'm going to save that for next week's review. But for this one, we have one final new member of the Doctor's gang, as he calls them. And that is Brian Williams, who is Rory's dad, played by the absolutely wonderful performer, otherwise known as Mark Williams, who most people of a certain age are probably going to more know him as Mr. Arthur Weasley from the Harry Potter film series. I will always remember him as Peterson in Red Dwarf. That was, I think, probably the first. Yeah, I'd say that was the first time I saw him in something. But regardless, he plays Rory's dad, and he is brilliant.
Did you just have that on you?
Of course. What sort of a man doesn't carry a trowel? Put it on your Christmas list.
Dad, I'm 31. I don't have a Christmas list anymore. I do!
What an ingenious casting. First of all, you can genuinely believe that they are related to one another. And secondly, I think just the very nature of him, he is just so much fun to have on board. And I tell you what, the very last thing that you really see him in was that after the adventure of this episode is all over and done, you have him doing probably the most quintessential British thing. He's like, you know what I want to do right now? I want to sit on the edge of your TARDIS. I want to look at planet Earth whilst having a sandwich and a cup of tea. I love that. I thought that was ingenious just to do that. Yeah, I loved his back and forth dialogue, both with Rory and, of course, with the Doctor as well, because they're the two that he probably spent the most amount of time with. Even Amy, I think they had a really nice little relationship there together.
You're wobbling the ladder.
I'm not.
I don't want another loft incident.
How's my side, Brian?
Perfect, as ever, Amy.
Thank you, Brian.
And it was quite nice as well that they took him where they introduced him at the start being like, oh, he doesn't really travel. He's you know, he struggles to even just go to the post office. And then by the end of the episode, after this big old adventure, he's going travelling around and seeing various wonders of the world, like the Machu Picchu and things. I just thought that was a really nice little thing to do. I can't remember if we see him anymore in this series, or at least in this half of the series. I think we might get him one more time, possibly in the Power of 3, if I remember correctly. But yeah, he's a character I wish could be around a hell of a lot more. He was absolutely fantastic. Nefertiti and Riddell, they were an interesting addition. I don't know. They didn't work as well as Brian, in my personal opinion. There was a lot of backwards and forwards, sort of going along the lines that, you know, it's language used of certain eras and attitudes of a certain era, and you know, kind of making you as an audience member go, ooh, you know, like his view on women.
Only an idiot denies the evidence of their own eyes.
Egyptian queen or not, I shall put you across my knee and spank you.
Oh, Lord. Try, and I'll snap your neck.
I like that they had Nefertiti to sort of counterbalance that, because, okay, he is of an era that, you know, women are effectively, you know, they should be kept in the kitchen and things like that, you know, but Nefertiti is of an era where women were highly valued in ancient Egypt. They were really believed to be as strong and as powerful and as smart as a lot of the men were. So I like that they sort of had that to counterbalance it. They were okay in what they were doing. There wasn't anything great with them. You know, they were fine.
What's that?
Well, you carry a trowel, I carry a med pack. It's all about the pockets in our family. This is an ice patch. It cools the skin.
I like that we brought up with Rory the idea, of course, that he is a nurse, because that is easy to forget. Going all the way back to the 11th hour, the first episode which featured Amy, Doctor and Rory was introduced as a nurse. And I always think back, because obviously there was Torture with Children, not Children of Earth, Miracle Day, which was obviously a medical sort of situation. I always think back to that time and think that would have been around about the time that we would have been seeing the Doctor, Amy and Rory. I always wonder, how would Rory have approached that situation? How would the Doctor have approached that situation? Amy, I think she would have just been her normal self. But the Doctor and Rory, I don't know. I think with their individual views and their ways of doing things, it would have been interesting to see, had they been part of Miracle Day, what could have happened, or what could have happened differently. Oh, maybe I could do that as a what if thing. I might have to have a bit of a think about that. But thinking of that, that brings me to Solomon.
I'm the Doctor.
Yes, I know. I'm Solomon.
The reason that I'm making that link is because I'm suddenly thinking, what would the Doctor have been like with the character of Oswald Danes in Torchwood Miracle Day, who was a convicted paedophile and stuff. And what's making me think how would he dealt with him is because how he deals with Solomon in this.
Look, Solomon, the missiles. See them shine. See how valuable they are. And they're all yours.
You wouldn't leave me, Doctor!
This is possibly the darkest we see the Doctor go. I cannot think of a time when the Doctor pretty much outright murders someone. You know, he obviously he saves the Silurian Ark at the end of this episode, but he does so by taking the thing that's providing the signal, which is what making the missiles lock onto the ship, and he puts it in Solomon's ship. But rather than, you know, giving Solomon a choice, like you see For example, at the end of the Sontaran two-part story with the 10th Doctor, he says, I'm giving you the chance to leave, and if you don't, I'm going to detonate you, I'm going to blow you up and kill you. He doesn't do that with Solomon in this. He just goes, here's the signal, I'm leaving it here, bye-bye. I hope you have a good death, effectively. And I'm like, that's just really dark for the Doctor. And it just seems to come out of nowhere, especially in this episode, because it's very light as an episode, pretty much all the way through. But the ending is really, really dark. Yeah, I'm still not quite sure how I feel about that with the Doctor. Solomon, as an overall character, of course, is played by David Bradley, who would later go on to play first of all, a fictionalized version of William Hartnell, who played the first Doctor, and he did that for the 50th anniversary sort of Adventure in Space and Time serial. He also then came back and actually played the first Doctor properly in a few episodes, sort of embodying the spirit of William Hartnell. I'm still unsure how I feel with those, and maybe I'll have to do a review of that Adventure of Space and Time episode when it comes down to it, because obviously at some point next year I'll have to do the 50th anniversary specials. So yeah, I might throw that in there as well. But Solomon as a character, again, he's really dark. He's got no empathy. He is literally out to make profit, and he will do so by any means necessary.
I don't know where you found it, or how you got it here, but I want it.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Earth Queen Nefertiti of Egypt.
Again, he was alright, but he felt a bit one-dimensional. It wasn't very much more than, this is what I'm doing. I'm coming here. I'm going to get the things. I'm going to make a profit. I'm going to take the most valuable thing here. Oh, Queen Nefertiti, she's more valuable than dinosaurs. Okay, and a rover. It wasn't very much more than, I want this item, I'm going to sell it, and if you don't do what I say, I'm going to hurt or kill you. That was the basics of it. So I think for David Bradley, I think he's a little bit underutilised in this one. He was good in what he was asked to do, but it was very basic. He performed it well, I guess.
You just want them for yourself. You won't profit from me, Doctor.
Don't ever judge me by your standards.
Trying to think if there's much else I can really talk about it, because it was just very simple and light-hearted. The music, I will say, annoyed me at times because they didn't get the balance right. There was definitely a few times where the music was too loud, especially when there was dialogue going as well. So you're like, well, I can't quite hear what they're saying with that. And there was a couple of times I had to rewind a little bit just to see if I could pick up what was actually being said. So while the music worked in terms of what it needed to do, there was nothing groundbreaking with it, and also the balance wasn't the greatest in this one. I guess I should talk about the titular dinosaurs.
Is this what you want? Is it?
And breather.
Yeah, I think the times that it was a practical effect, which I think possibly the only time we got that would have been when the Triceratops gets killed. And I think you see the eye, and it's like Matt Smith is like really close to it, and he's like, oh, I'm sorry, you're dying, that kind of thing. There, it looked pretty good. The big wider shots, yeah, it's a shame, because had we never had Jurassic Park, and you see how detailed these big CGI dinosaurs can be with big budgets, anytime you see anything afterwards, whether it is here in Doctor Who, whether it is they had it in an episode of Red Dwarf Series 8, if I remember rightly, the dinosaur Pete. Yeah, it's just so obvious how fake it is. And it's a shame in that regard. I mean, the pterodactyls were okay because they were just sort of there a bit in the distance, but like the Triceratops, you've seen them literally riding one and things. And right, the other thing I just want to quickly say, I hated the idea of making the Triceratops like a dog, where it goes chasing after a ball, and even just after chasing any kind of ball, a golf ball. At least if it's going to be a big ball, it kind of makes sense. But a tiny little ball like that is probably going to swallow it more so than anything. I mean, I've seen much small dogs almost accidentally swallow a golf ball. So a dinosaur, yeah, that's definitely getting swallowed. But I think overall, it was light. It was cheesy. It was not meant to be anything really groundbreaking. And in a way, I think they've probably tried to go with this being the last really fun adventure that we get with Amy and with Rory. Maybe it might have been better off doing it a little bit later in the series. Because, yeah, obviously the way it obviously all ends with them, it's a bit hard to do. So maybe it might have been better like as episode 3 and sort of midway through the series. But I will come back to what I said last week, is that I would have liked to have seen the Doctor and Amy and Rory's sort of divorce being sort of seen over the course of the 5 episodes and really being stretched out, and we see them sort of gradually, you know, reconciling together. And I said that it would be, you don't have to have it that they come willingly. You can have it come that it's an absolute accident, like it does in this episode, where the Doctor just turns up, he's going, yeah, I don't care what they're doing, I'm just taking them with me, it's fine, it won't be a problem. And he does, he materialises around them, accidentally brings along Brian, and I loved his introduction, you know, where the Doctor's all going off at him, and he's like, don't you move, oh, I don't know who you are. Oh, yeah, that was a brilliant little scene, I really like that.
Don't move! Do you really think I'm that stupid I wouldn't notice? How did you get aboard, eh? Transmat? Who sent you?
Doctor. That's my dad.
So it is now time to do my scores for this episode. So like I said before, it is 10 categories to get a score out of 10 to give an overall score out of 100, and I'm going to use these when I come to eventually doing my ranking for the Stephen Moffat era, in the same way that I did a ranking last year for the entirety of the first Russell T Davies era. So I'll be putting a ranking out at some point when I've done all these, and this is what helps me to do them. So these are the scores for Dinosaurs on a Spaceship. And so, this episode scores 64 marks, which is a C+ grading, which is just bang average. You know, it's fine. You know, there's nothing wrong with it, nothing harmful about it. It's just, yeah, it's fine. It's there. It's simple. It's easy. It's easy on the eye, and it's just something you can kind of have in the background. It's not going to be anything groundbreaking. Next week's one, which will be the Gunman of the Apocalypse. I think it's called that. I could be entirely wrong. I've forgotten what it... No, it's not. It's a town called Mercy. Gunman of the Apocalypse. Am I thinking of Red Dwarf again? I'm possibly thinking of Red Dwarf again. Oh, God. There's a lot of links to Red Dwarf here. I mean, even last week with the Asylum of the Daleks, there was something I was thinking... I don't think I even mentioned it in the review, but... I think it was, oh yeah, it was that moment when the Doctor and Amy, they realise one of the guys is a Dalek puppet, because he was the one who was outside, so his body is sort of normal, and then he goes and sees we basically realise that his crewmates are actually dead and they're skeletons, which just reminded me of that very first episode of the second series where we got introduced to the character of Crichton. It seemed like there's a lot of Red Dwarf parodies at the moment. I don't know why, but hey, I'm down for it. I love Red Dwarf. But that's going to do it for this week's review. Thank you so very much for watching. Join me again next time. Subscribe if you're new. Drop your comments down below. And of course, if you want to see early access, please consider joining the Patreon. But for now, my name's Kevin. I am a geek, and you've been watching Kevin the Geek. Goodbye.